Ooh, this is really weird and warm. What is this, Amanda?
That's a bag of lawn clippings that are starting to break down and decompose.
Right on. My name's Anand Chani, and in this episode of Go, we're talking about composting. And I'm not sure this is just a bag of lawn clippings.
Coming up on this week's episode.
To nitrogen ratio to be about 30:1 to have an effective compost.
All right. So welcome to an all-new episode of Go on Shaw TV. And as I mentioned, on this episode, we're talking about composting. And before we do that, Amanda, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us what we're doing, what this place is?
Sure. I'm Amanda. I'm with Baker Creek Enhancement Society, and we're here today at the Westside Community Garden. There are two community gardens in Quesnel. This one is located on Lewis Drive, and the other one is located on Shepherd Ave, downtown. And this is a place where the community can all get together and learn about gardening and composting. So it's open to all public, all community members, and they can come here and learn how to garden.
Now, that's what I wanted to talk about a little more. What are community gardens? Like, I keep hearing about them. I keep seeing them popping up in different places around town. So, what are community gardens exactly, and who do you encourage to come down here and actually use them?
I would encourage everybody to come down and use the community garden. It's a place where maybe someone who, for example, might live in an apartment who might not have the space to grow a full garden, they can come here and participate and contribute to the garden and then help with the harvest of the vegetables and fruit and take some home for their family to eat.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about what's available at a community garden. Like you mentioned that you can grow stuff here, but you mentioned composting as well. So, could you tell me a little bit about what the community gardens do when people actually come down here?
They have weekly work bees on Wednesdays, so they alternate their work bees between each of the gardens. So they do one every other Wednesday here and every other Wednesday at the downtown garden. And they come here and they work together. They do composting to fertilize their garden so they don't have to use a chemical fertilizer.
All right. Now we're going to go and check out a short story here, but when we come back, we're going to check out what composting, what we can do with composting in the community gardens, right? So welcome back, and as I mentioned on this episode, we're talking about composting. So first things first, Amanda, like what can you compost? Can I compost my McDonald's cups?
No, I would not recommend composting your McDonald's cups.
Right on. But so what can we compost exactly?
So you're going to look for organic matter essentially. So compostable items are broken down into two groups, nitrogen-rich and carbon-rich. So you want your carbon to nitrogen ratio to be about 30:1 to have an effective compost.
All right. So what are we looking at in these pits right here? Like exactly what's being composted here?
This looks like it's grass clippings. So when they're green, they're considered a nitrogen item, and when they're starting to dry, they're a carbon item. And then as we move down, you get into some leaf litter, and then you have some garden waste as we go down here. Some more, some branches, some woody debris.
So typically all your organic waste, so like your kitchen waste and your garden waste, etc., that's what you would try and compost.
That's right. So all your veggie and kitchen scraps, eggshells, coffee grounds, including the filters. Dryer lint is even compostable, as well as hair, which is kind of weird, but it is compostable. Lawn clippings, leaf litter, straw. Types of manure are compostable, but they need to be from a herbivore. They can't be from a meat-eating animal. So
Why is that, if I may ask? Because a lot of people, like myself included, I have a dog at home and they say do not use their manure or anything else for your plants or anything else. So why is that, meat-eating animals can't be, their waste can't be used for compost?
I believe there's a bacteria in there, some type of a disease or pathogen that may not be fully broken down through the composting process. So to be safe, we don't encourage that.
And one of the things I notice here is the lack of smell. And a lot of people don't get into this because they say it's icky, it's weird. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into one more story. But when we come back, I want you to tell me why this is not smelly or icky and how people can avoid making their compost smelly and icky. So welcome back, and before we go to a short break, I just wanted to show you guys this compost pit back here. Now, the gloves are on. They're on because I don't want to dirty my shirt while handling this. But like I mentioned before, this stuff really isn't icky or smelly. So when people say, "Oh, I don't compost because it's smelly and my whole garden smells like manure and stuff like that," like why does that even happen?
That's often because there's either too much nitrogen items in the compost, or it's too wet. So there's not enough air getting into the compost to make the process happen effectively. So you're getting an anaerobic decomposition happening, which is a very slow process, and it creates a really foul smell. So you can fix that by adding a lot more carbon items and increasing your aeration. So turning your compost, if it's really wet, you could even spread it out and let it dry and repile it and let it go back at it again.
And typically, how long does this process take? Like, check this out. Like, this has been broken down, and this could have been corn on the cob. It could have been someone's, garden clippings, whatever it is. And check it out. It's all broken down really smooth here. So, how long does this really take to break it down into this pile over here?
Depending on the process that is used, like if someone is just letting their compost just sit and decompose without turning it, it'll take quite a while. And especially in our area, we don't have a really long growing season. So that's also a contributing factor to the length of time that this process takes. But this, if you're actively turning your compost and adding to it, maybe 3 months, and you can end up with this awesome black gold, as they call it.
Now, if people at home wanted some more information about, composting and coming down here and giving this a shot and everything else, and about your composting workshops, how would they find Baker Creek Society online?
They could go to www.bakercreek.org, or they can call the Nature Center at 992-5833.
Right on. Now, we're going to go into a short break, and when we come back, Christina's actually going to try composting out. She's actually going to go and give her garbage down to the potato house and try and break that down there. So we'll go and check that out after the break.
Hey everyone, welcome back and thanks for joining us. So today we're gonna put the lessons that Anand learned into practice. So I have here my week's worth of garbage that I collected this week in a little plastic bag. And Mary and I are going to go through it and show you what can and cannot be composted. Okay, so shall we get started?
Yeah, when I'm going through garbage, and this is a really lovely gift. Thank you for bringing your garbage today, Christina. I like to, delicately, I'm just kidding, I just do this.
This is what I thought.
Yeah.
I'm a little embarrassed.
Well, garbage can be really embarrassing, and that's one of the reasons why we have so many problems with people being engaged in composting, is that if you look at garbage culturally, look at it from the English language perspective, the more words you create to separate yourself from your subject, the more embarrassed you are about it. So
this is my first time actually learning about composting and doing this.
you're very brave, and I'm impressed.
Okay.
Excellent, so let's sort.
Okay.
And the way that we're gonna do this is we're literally gonna take anything that basically looks squishy and organic, and we're going to separate it from stuff that looks like plasticky garbage stuff.
Okay.
So just feel free to get in there. This looks organic-y.
This must be organic-y. Where does this go?
That's a good question. What's it made of?
Mesh? Plastic?
Plastic, and
and
ask yourself this question, is it weird?
yes.
Yeah, so
It
weird
is
usually is not recyclable. And the great thing about weird is there's these really fantastic staff at the transfer stations. They wear like the high-vis vests, big smiles on their faces, and they're super friendly. So you can bring weird to the transfer station and say things like, hey, I got this weird thing. What do I do with this? And then they'll help you understand where the thing is supposed to go properly.
Okay,
So
good
this
point.
one is garbage.
Okay, so we have separated into kind of 2, 3-ishy, some groups here for compost and recyclable things.
And other stuff. Like
And-
there's some garbage in there and there's some compost too. So
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you a skill testing question. My
Okay.
skill testing question for you is, can you find something in here made from a plant?
Okay, well, before I answer that, we're just gonna take a short break and take a look at the next story. But when we come back, we're gonna go through this and show you what can be composted, what can be recycled in this pile little here, right here.
So the question is, can you find something in this pile that's made originally from plants?
That's made originally from plants, paper,
There you go.
trees.
So every single thing in there, pretty much, that's paper, is,
Recyclable.
no.
Compostable.
You got it. Now you can recycle paper too, but once it's been in your compost and it's all like, gooey
Icky.
and suspicious, this is compost, especially paper towels, because they're already a really short fibered product. And the thing that's gonna make that compost work is adding this. Because if you have,
okay.
this is carbon, and you add it to nitrogen. Think of carbon as your crunchy brown stuff and nitrogen as your squishy green stuff. If you add crunchy brown stuff to your squishy green stuff, you're going to have compost that's going to break down way faster, because basically you're giving a full meal to the bacteria and fungus and critters that break your compost down. Now that we got all the paper towels in there, I don't think there's anything else, a couple tissues.
So these chicken bones,
Good question. What do you think?
I'm thinking no, because I
just
think
said that.
Yeah, that too. But I remember when Anand was doing it before the break, Amanda mentioned nothing that's carnivore based, nothing meat, things like that.
Yeah, on both ends of the carnivore too. So the nasty part of the story is sometimes folks will put manure from carnivores, so cat litter or dog feces, into their compost bin, and of course that can end up getting into your food stream, and you don't want that anywhere near something that's going to be food. So we get that question a lot, and some people have composting toilets. And they're like, well, what do I do with the human manure? Because it's perfectly good biological material, but I don't really want to put my hands in it or get my food out of it. So what we recommend you do for that kind of stuff is dig a hole, fill it up with that stuff, and then plant a tree on it. And the tree will get the nutrients from it for a really long time. And there's guarantee you're not going to go in there like rummaging around trying to weed it out or change that bed into something else at a later date.
Maybe you can call it a poo tree later. Okay, so this is the group here that can be composted. So Mary,
Yeah, we're good.
Tell us here, we are here at the Potato House today. Tell us what this house is about here in Williams Lake.
Yeah. So the Potato House was built in 1941. It's 75 years old this year. And what we're all about is identifying a place and making it a landmark instead of a landfill. Same goes for our garden space. We needed some nutrients for the soil, so we started a composting program, and the City of Williams Lake and their residents have been delivering compost to us for 5 years. In the last 5 years, we have diverted 33 tons of compost and prevented 34,000 tons of methane from entering the atmosphere.
Wow.
Your ratio when it comes to squishy green stuff versus crunchy brown stuff, your carbon and nitrogen ratio, for every 1 handful of squishy green stuff, you need 2 handfuls of crunchy brown stuff. So we don't have quite enough
Right.
of this stuff. So you can use anything. You can use shredded paper, you can put a cardboard box through a wood chipper. There's all kinds of things you can use to make up that gap. Or you can use leaves, which are nature's natural compost for carbon sources. We've got lots at the Potato House. If you need some, talk to us. We have a basement full of leaves. So that's what we'll do here is when we put this in the compost bin, we're just gonna throw some leaves on it. The leaves also cut the smell down, and they prevent critters like crows and ravens and other adorable songbirds from making a huge mess of your compost all over your yard.
Okay, well, we're gonna take a look at the next story, but when we come back, we'll be transferring this into the compost bin. So usually it's a no-no to bring anything meat like to the composting bins here, but here at the Potato House in Williams Lake, you're welcome to bring some chicken bones and more.
And more. This is our green cone digester. It's a really simple system. It's partially buried in the ground, and if you look in there,
It doesn't smell at all.
it doesn't. It's not really full because we don't get a lot of people using it, but it works extremely well. Then dump your bones in there, and we're done. Here it is. Would you like to do the honors, Christina?
Ooh, this is my first time. Okay. Just in this bin.
The bin that says "Feed Me Compost."
It's going in. Ooh.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, there's flies in there. Blar. Now we actually left this open knowing that you were gonna come, so you can see this is what our green layer looks like here at the Potato House. But normally it doesn't look this open because we've always got our carbon ready to go, and we just cover it up and then it's fine. So Christina, do you wanna give our compost bin a big old snifferoo and tell our audience at home what it smells like?
Okay.
Give it a sniff.
I'm gonna do the sniff test. Oh wow, okay, just before you put these leaves in, it was kind of smelling like garbage. I just did, I'm doing a full-on smell test. It doesn't stink at all. This is crazy. It doesn't smell.
Often it smells like coffee because we get so much coffee from our neighboring restaurants. But yeah, we just spread it around, and there's some paper plates in there.
Wow, okay.
And then you can see the flies aren't there anymore, and the crows and ravens can't see the compost, so they're done. Now, Christina, you brought us a really great gift today. That compost that you brought us in your garbage, we're able to put that into the soil and grow these beautiful plants. So
Nice.
to thank you and encourage you to come back to the Potato House
Yes.
and bring us more compost, I have a gift for you.
Oh, nice.
Yes, I have one of our custom Potato House compost buckets. They're made in British Columbia. The lid stays open so you can scrape your compost into it right from your dinner table. And it's got a handle at the bottom, perfect for banging, because you want to get the sludge out, right?
Awesome. And Oliver actually told me that even if I have this beside my kitchen sink, as long as it's sealed tight, there's not going to be any smell.
There's not gonna be any smell because it's perforated. It's when there's no holes in the top that you get the skunky smell.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I just received actually the best composting education from the composting queen herself in Williams Lake. We will see you here next week once again. Thanks everyone for joining us. And of course, if you have any story ideas, would love to volunteer, or have any story suggestions, don't forget to send us an email, tweet, or Facebook message.